it's not going to get anything. So we need to take all that tape off of there. Has anybody got a pencil? Yeah. I forgot to bring a pencil in. So the secret about sharpening any instrument is the corner. So if you look at this scraper in cross section, if I blow this out like this scraper is, you know, it's got burrs on there and it comes across in here and it's got rounded things on there. The first thing we want to do is make this very sharp. So we want to take these off of here, make this corner square and sharp with this corner. We don't want any of this fudge around the corners in there, okay? So we'll take, this is a diamond plate, and we want to hold this on here and just try and flatten that one edge. Okay? That's getting all those pieces off there. And you go all the way around. The scraper's got 8 surfaces you can use for scraping. Sometimes it's good to use this short section if you want to get into a tighter spot.
And we just ordered some of these tools. So it'll make it easier.
So get that side nice and flat all the way around. That's 4 of those edges. Now we've got to do the 4 edges on the other side.
What is that, Mark?
This is, let's see. I should know that, but the screen that says right here is 1200 mesh. There's a coarser one on the other side. Okay, so that's got that. Now we've got this surface cleaned on here, so it's nice and flat all the way out through there. I'll call that extension line. We still got some other grunge going on these surfaces where you've got it, so we need to get those flattened. This is where Jason and I differ a little bit, and I'll just do as I've learned myself. I like to, you want to get this flat and square across here. So what I do in order to do that is I like to clamp this between 2 surfaces, so that when I run my mill file on here, I have something to reference on instead of just this little edge. If I go down just this little edge, you know, I might be holding it like this or like this. So if I have it in between 2 pieces of wood, you could use any wood that's square. Get the square in there like so. Hold it in here. And you really want to tighten this thing down. Now we got to use a mill file. This has got 2 surfaces. I don't know if you all know the difference between a mill file and a bastard cut file. A mill file just has 1 set of grooves. It's a single cut file, and that'll give you a cleaner surface than if you use the side that's got 2 cuts on the file. Always use the mill side of the file. We're just getting all that rough grunge off of there and squaring up that surface. Now that's a fairly rough cut that's on there, so now we're going to go to a finer cut, and we'll take this and go across that surface. And Jason made a good point, is that the MDF that I'm using here probably wouldn't be as good as a piece of hardwood because the MDF has very fine dust, and that can clog up this, but this washes off fairly easily. Then I like to come back with a couple finer ones. I've got 5 micron on this side.
What is that, Mark?
What's a 5 micron paper?
Okay.
Where do you get that fine?
Well, I built these. The paper is the sticker paper. And then that's half a micron on this side. So we've done that. Now we want to come over to the other corner. So we flip this thing around. What I don't like to see the nails and things in this bench?
No.
It makes it really bad for any kind of tools that you're trying to sharpen. So try and keep the screws and nails and things like that. Try and keep your bench
Well, I think part of that is ADD because a kid just has a hard time to just nail it into a table or... I guess that's not fair either.
All right, as Mark's going to do this, I just want to point out one thing to you guys. When we're preparing the size of the guitar for routing, for the rabbet, for the binding, One of the things you want to try to do is keep the side quite flat as much as possible. Ideally, it would be dead flat around the entire guitar. That's not usually the case. A lot of times there's a concave area here in the waist, especially right here and here, just because of the bending forces involved. But if we end up with the guitar side becoming crowned or convex on the outside, what ends up happening is, as we go to scrape it, we'll end up naturally rounding over the binding and making it quite thin in this area. And if you look here on this particular guitar, see how the side is rolling off there? By the time you get that scraped out, the binding is getting really thin. So that's just something to look at. You can take a straight edge and go around your guitar and just make sure that the sides are fairly flat. It's better to have them concave than have them really crowned or convex.
That's before you route it?
Before routing, yeah. So that flat block, something like this, check this for flat with the straight edge first, and then you can sand the sides with that. If you're going here with the fingers and sanding with sandpaper in the fingers, you're going to
never sand like that.
Good. We're just polishing that edge. Now, I've noticed all of you just use the long edge, but there's short edges on there that you can use too. So we might as well sharpen all of those as we go around. This edge in there. You may not be able to get the short ones on this one because I need a place to drop it through, and this vise isn't quite big enough. Not working, so I'm going to give up on the short size on this particular.
Yeah, I think if we can get a feel for the longer ones, then we can.
So now we've got this surface cleaned up. And hopefully with the blocks on here, these are fairly square, okay? Square corners. Now what we'd like to do is take the burnisher and roll this edge in that direction.
Kind of like a mohawk.
Yeah, kind of like a mohawk. So we'll take this and we can take this burnisher and drag that burnisher across here.
What's the angle on that, Mark?
Oh, about 10 degrees, 8 degrees, 10 degrees, something like that.
It's not quite flat, but it's kind of got an angle
It's
to
not
it.
flat. You can kind of drag it across. Just to get the other side.
About 3 or 4 strokes, right?
3 or 4 strokes to do it. If you got good square corners, it doesn't take much to roll that over. Now what we've done on here is we've taken this corner, we've taken just a little bit of steel. You can't believe you're doing this, but this is a very hard material, and you're rolling just a little edge out there like that as we glue it up on it. Now you want to take your tool, we've done that. And what you're looking for in the final edge is coming out in here, and this is going to have a little burr. That's all it is just a little burr that's around there like that.
So you're laying that mohawk kind of down.
Laying that mohawk around on the other corner that you have there. And that's just a piece of hardened tool steel. Hardened tool steel. What you don't want to have is you don't want to have this meet this. You like this to be nice and sharp, this will dull that. Same thing, you don't want to lay these on anything that could dull the surface.
And again, about a 10-degree angle?
I like to come across first square. Just square to try and roll that down. And then, a 10-degree I think would be the maximum. Now you just come on here and push that. See how we're pushing this in this direction? We're trying to roll that corner down. Same thing this one. Push this. Drag it across there. And you can feel it on your fingernails. You drag your fingernail across there. You can feel it scraping with your fingernails. It's not quite flat.
So you want to make sure your sides are really square. I'll try to help you. You want to make sure your binding doesn't bend.
Flip it over and do the other side.
I'm going to talk to you later.
Okay, so